If we're so far apart that this is not going to happen, then I think the president's probably at a point where he's going to say, well, we're done. We're not going to continue with this endeavor for weeks and months on end. So we need to determine very quickly now, and I'm talking about in a matter of days, whether or not this is doable.
Marco is right in saying it. We want to see it end. If for some reason one of the two parties makes it very difficult, we're just going to say you're foolish, you're fools, you're horrible people, and we're going to just take a pass.
As the Trump administration works to determine if an end to the Ukraine-Russia war is possible, Ukrainian officials have signed an agreement in the lead up to a full minerals deal, which is expected on Thursday. Here to discuss, a special envoy to Ukraine, General Keith Kellogg. General, thank you so much for joining us. So, first of all, what do we know about this minerals deal, and why is it good for the United States?
Yeah, Charlie, thanks for having me. Good to be with you this morning. Look, it's a great deal, and what it does, it provides us minerals, precious metals that we really don't have here in the United States at a large number. We're talking when I'm talking monetary terms, and for example, titanium. Titanium we imported, they exported. It's things we can use for our industry, and it's very, very important. But let me do a quick pivot to you. Secretary Rubio said just a minute ago when we just came out of Paris, just got in last night, from what happened in Paris when we talked to the E3, the Brits, the Germans, and the French, and then the Ukrainians were there as well, where we had Sevilla, their foreign minister, we had Yermak, the chief of staff, and we also had Umarov, their minister of defense, and then Secretary Rubio had his two flankers, as I'll call them, Steve Witkoff and myself with him as well, and we talked about going forward with a potential ceasefire in the near term, and that's the reason we're returning to London this week to actually lock that down. And I think there's tremendous opportunities. Look, Charlie, President Trump has done more in 90 days to solve this war, the largest war in Europe since World War II, than they did in the previous 900 plus days. And he's driving this towards solutions. And one thing I noticed with President Trump and been with him before is don't give him a problem unless you have a solution. And I think we've got a pretty good solution set. The minerals deal is one of them. Also go to a comprehensive ceasefire. When I talk about a comprehensive ceasefire, it's sea, air, land, industrial as well, for a period of at least 30 days, and then it builds to a longer peace deal, a permanent peace deal as well. And I think we're on a good path. I know it's hard, it's really difficult, but I think if it wasn't for President Trump, we wouldn't be where we're at today, and he's driving us towards a conclusion.
Well, certainly 2 months ago, this would have seemed impossible to even imagine. But Secretary Rubio his comments seemed pretty hard hitting, pretty tough words from him. How optimistic are you that that Ukraine and Russia will find some way to end the war?
Yeah, well, Charlie, part of the problem is I'm a born optimist, so I know we're going to get to a place we want to be. His words are hard, but they were supposed to be hard because we're tired of what's happening. We've got too many other issues in the world that the United States must be involved in, and this war has gone on way too long. But I think there's an opportunity. We presented what I would call a term sheet. This is what it looks like going forward to the Ukrainians. They went back to Kyiv. They're going to come back next week in London. We're going to sit down and say, what does this look like? Then we turned to the Russians and said, okay, what does your term sheet look like? Then you put it together. Let me give you one example. The example is we've been very clear. NATO's off the table. You're not going to be part of NATO. That's something that's not new. We've been talking about that since 2008 when Ambassador Burns told Condoleezza Rice this was a bridge too far. I wrote about it in 2013. But there's workarounds. There's workarounds you can do and workarounds you can work. So you don't want to start with a problem, throw it out there, and there's no solution to it. And we have. And that covers everything we're talking about. And we should have some pretty good results next week in London. At least I believe so.
General Keith Kellogg, thank you so much.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.